Hi, in this video, I'm going to show you how to search a specific publication or newspaper title once you've gotten to a screen that looks like this. So you might have been given a direct link to the page for a certain newspaper, like the New York Times, which is what we're looking at right now. Before we jump into search, a few different things I want to point out on this page. First of all, notice that we're starting with the basic search. If you have a very broad topic and you want to do something like, for example, put it in a specific time period or location, you might use advanced search instead. Most of those filter options are still going to be available once you get the result set from a basic search. So we're still going to do that for the purposes of this video. Also on this page, there's good information about just what is this newspaper. So here it's telling us that the New York Times is considered the official US newspaper and why. It also tells us the coverage. So this means that for anything published by the New York Times starting with 1980, we have access through this screen. If you're looking for historical coverage, you'll want to use a different source. So let's start with a pretty broad search, but for a topic that's sure to have a lot of results, COVID-19. Because it's such a big topic, it might take a second for us to get those results. Notice how many results we got here, more than 23,000. So it's default to be sorted by relevance, and sometimes it can be tricky to know what's more relevant. The database doesn't necessarily know what's relevant to you, so you might consider sorting a different way. You could, for example, sort by the most recent. Something else that's going to help you before you start diving in and clicking on the first result you see is to look at some of these filters on the left. So let's just walk through them. You might limit to things we have full text access to, which was all of them. You might limit by source type. Do you want it specifically from the newspaper? Do you want to include online content? Do you want to include audio and video? Publication date might also be really important. Obviously, for this topic, we don't really have results until March 2020. You might also look at publication title. Notice this includes lots of different New York Times content. Their online content, their magazine content, video content, Spanish, also the book review. So lots of different pieces from the New York Times are in here. You might want to focus on particular types of content. Do you want news coverage? Do you want commentary? That could be opinion pieces, letters to the editor. Just because something's published in the New York Times doesn't mean it all has the same perspective or meaning. A news article is going to be very different from a commentary piece. COVID-19 also has its own subject term. So that means that it's been tagged as being about this subject. So if you wanted to filter by that, that would narrow your results a little bit. Particularly for a search like this, you might be really interested in location. You could just pick some of the top ones here. If you click more, you're going to have the option to both include and exclude different places. So we might want to focus on, I'm going to keep scrolling down, we might want to just look at Chicago. So this is going to update us to just a few hundred results. Now, if we look at the result list, you can see that the icon, this visual here, is telling us, is it coming from the newspaper or is it coming from their online content? That might matter to you. Once you have articles that you're interested in, go ahead and select them. And notice that you have some options up here for what to do with those results. I always recommend grabbing them and saving them in some way rather than just, for example, leaving this tab open and deciding you can come back to it later. So this is going to help you cite them. You can email them to yourself, save them. You could also download as PDFs, export to different places, lots and lots of different options. If we look at one of the results, notice it does include the image that was published in the newspaper as well as the full text. So again, this is how to navigate a specific search in one newspaper. For example, the New York Times, from the screen that is telling you it's about one newspaper.